Hi, I'm Kathy Hester of PlantBasedInstantPot.com and HealthySlowCooking.com and the author of 10 cookbooks. So what we're going to go over today is we're going to talk about the different sizes of Instant Pots slash electric pressure cookers, talk about what the difference is, and maybe figure out which one's the right one for you. There's different sizes, different models. Even within that, there's different functionalities that you might want to choose one over another. But if all you really want to know is what my favorite Instant Pot is, I'll tell you, it's one of two things. The Milfi, either regular or 2.0 is great. If you're going to do the Instant Pot brand, the Instant Pot Duo is my favorite. And we'll talk a little more about that, but I just feel like price-wise and function-wise, it does pretty much everything that you need it to do at a really good budget price. The lowest priced Instant Pot is the Instant Pot Luxe, which does not have the yogurt function. So if you're not interested in that at all, you could go ahead and get the Luxe, but I suspect later on you'll wish you had the Duo. So one of the big questions I get asked all the time is, what size Instant Pot do I need? So we're going to talk about some self-questioning and internal dialogue we can have with ourselves to pick out the right Instant Pot for us, because it may be different for my family than your family. But I wanted to go ahead and show you the three basic sizes. So it used to be the 6-quart was the only game in town. So here's the 6-quart. It's the one that I recommend for most families. The 3-quart, we're a 2-person household. We use the 6-quart to make four to 6 servings, and so we will have for dinner and then have leftovers for a lunch or two. And that works really well for us. But if you like to make everything fresh every day and you're a small family, the 3-quart might be for you. This big guy over here is the 8-quart. And if you have a large family or you like to batch cook, an 8-quart could work really well for you. And in almost every model, it has all three. There's going to be one model we do at the end, not. The Milfi, I believe, is only 6 quarts at this time of this recording. That could change, but there are other electric pressure cooker brands, like there's a bazillion of them now. There used to not be that many. If you have a choice and you're not sure which one you want to get, and it's becoming kind of a hard decision, just go with the 6-quart. Just don't make yourself crazy. If you have a really large family or would like to cook 3 pounds of beans at the same time and put them in the freezer, an 8-quart might be good. You can cook a pound of beans in the 3-quart from dry. So even if you get the small one, you can still do some batch cooking. So again, my recommendation is the 6-quart, but you could go for the 8 or the 3 if that's what's best for your family. So the first Instant Pot we're going to look at is going to be the Duo, the one that I recommend the most. So this is the 8-quart model, so it's bigger. I'm not sure if you can tell that without the others for comparison, but let's look at the top. So this is one of the things you'll notice that's pretty consistent. So there's a little pressure indicator to let you know it's going to be up when the pressure is up, and you won't be able to open this if it's up. We have sealing and venting. So when we're cooking, it's going to be to the ceiling. And then when we're venting, we can either just use our finger, right? We can use something like a pot holder so that we're not touching it, because there can be some hot water that comes out through this. So if you're doing a soup, I wouldn't throw it out all the way. I would just go back and forth, and it will sound something like this. And then as it gets a little more calm and some of the pressure comes down, you can go ahead and release it. If having your finger that close really makes you nervous, you'll probably recognize that some of these tools come with the Instant Pot, and they actually fit over here so that you can move this back and forth. And that gives you, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches. And you can kind of see how this works. So it's pretty far away. So if that's something that's making you nervous, don't worry about that. So let's look at the front for a minute. On either side of the off, you'll see rice, multigrain porridge, steam, soup, meat, bean, and poultry. So the soup, meat, bean, poultry, those are all just presets on the actual pressure cooker setting. So those are unnecessary. And you'll notice some models will have cake and egg and who knows what else it might have. Butterscotch. No, it doesn't really have a butterscotch one, but who knows what settings will come up later. So you don't need those. So if you're looking at a model and you're like, but that one has a cake setting, you can make cakes in one that doesn't have a cake setting. So rice, multigrain porridge, steam. Steam and rice are a little bit different, but a couple of the others are just presets. The things that are most important, so we see yogurt, pressure cook, slow cook, saute. The most you're going to use is going to be pressure cook and saute. So you saute some onions before you make your stew or soup in the pressure cooker. You can change some pressure levels and things like that. Notice on the Duo there is not a start button. That actually makes me happy. That means after you set it, it'll give you a little beep and let you know it started. So I'm used to that because I've had an Instant Pot for so many years. Some of the new ones, and if your model has start, that means you have to press start. And we'll talk about that when we get to a model that has to do with that. But just notice the difference between the Luxe, which I'm not showing you, and the Duo is the yogurt setting. So next we're going to look at the Milfi 2.0. So Milfi is a brand just like Instant Pot is a brand. And Instant Pot is also used kind of like the way we use Kleenex. Give me a Kleenex. We mean give me a tissue, right? Crock pot versus slow cooker. Instant Pot versus electric pressure cooker. So just know and get used to that. So Milfi is just the same kind of brand that Instant Pot is of an electric pressure cooker that has multi-cooker capabilities. And that's a mouthful. So Milfi, why buy a Milfi versus an Instant Pot? Sometimes they are on sale more. So if I use the Milfis, I'm pretty happy with them. I do notice that when it's building up to pressure, more steam leaks out before it comes up to pressure in the Milfi. So just know if you get that, not to panic. And with this one being the 2.0, let's look at the top. So there's no ceiling venting thing, right? There's just this. And one of the things so this is the same pressure valve that lets us know, hey, it's up to pressure. We actually, in the forefront, and let's see if I can do this backwards. Yeah, there we go. So if we hit pressure cook, one of the things we have here is pressure release. So do you see how that goes through? We can do auto, manual, so that's how we choose how to release the pressure. We can also change the pressure level here. And then we can cancel. So you notice that a lot of the buttons are called the same, like poultry, meat, beans, soup. Those are all doing the same things. They're still just settings of the pressure cooker with certain times, and we can cycle through those. On this, we have things like eggs and cake. We have yogurt setting. Again, the egg and cake setting is just another pressure cooker setting. There's more similarities than there are differences between a Milfi and an Instant Pot. Both have these nice stainless steel interiors. This is a 6-quart. Last I checked, Milfi only has 6 quarts. So that's probably going to change at some point, and just know that. Probably by the time I publish this, who knows, the Instant Pot may have a larger or an even smaller version. Those things are going to just change all the time. But if you're not interested in a 6-quart, that would knock Milfi off of your list immediately. So we're going to look at the Ultra model. It's the Ultra and the Evo models that I feel go to a burn message quicker than necessary, and perhaps, I don't know, maybe they just heat a little hotter, or their sensor is a little bit off. So what I find is if you're doing something like split pea soup, grits, it's going to burn. So it might not even really be burned. It could just give you that message ahead of time. I find that this one sometimes even goes to a burn message if I'm just making rice, which is not typical of most Instant Pots. So in general, if you don't already have one of these models, I would go for the Duo. That's another reason. There's super fancy things on some of these, but the fact that it's hard to cook just your everyday food or harder, I'm not sure that that's much of a plus. But let's take a look at it anyhow. This is my 3-quart. Actually, let me move this here a little bit. Okay, so you can see it's just like the Duo on the top. We still have the same mechanism. This is probably older than my 8-quart Duo. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind. So as you notice, we navigate through these using this button. So if we come back up and we go to pressure cook, we click it, then we click it again so I can change the time, and we kind of go through the list of things. See how it moves through? So it's a little harder to see, and it takes a little practice getting the navigate. It also has the dreaded start button. So if I don't click the start button, nothing's going to happen. And so that's another thing to think about. I'm going to cancel this out. So I have, more times than I would care to admit, come to my Instant Pot expecting a beautiful dinner, and what I find is a cold Instant Pot that never started because I didn't press the start button. So if you're upgrading something like a Duo or an older model, you might even want to put a little sticky note in front of your Instant Pot to remind you to push the start button. Another tip is when I store my Instant Pots, I store them like this so the ring can get a little bit of air and not hold all the smells so much. You still probably want to have an extra ring, so for like sweet things and curries or something really strong, because you don't want your oatmeal to taste like last night's dinner. You want your oatmeal to taste fresh and beautiful. But this also helps, it just lets things air out. I push this underneath my counter so that when I pull it out, I have to see if this is in here. Because one of the biggest things that happens, biggest mistake, is this is out and someone pours water into this, or beans or rice, or both water and rice in here, and then that can be an issue. So if you kind of are used to, if you keep it on your counter, keep it where you can't just pour it into it without pulling it close to you to look at. So that's a tip. Okay, next we're going to look at the Duo Evo Plus. And there has been Duo Plus that I've had before and some things like that, but again, it's like the Duo with the cake function. This is a little bit of a whole different animal. And we'll look at the top. So you already noticed, you probably can see this looks like there are holes in there, and there are. This part actually comes out. Let me let you see that from above. So this is dented in a little bit, and what this does is it helps the pressure release a little bit sooner. What I like about it is that that's a possibility. What I don't like about it is you have to buy this $10 plastic thing that does not come with this, that sits right here. So what you do is you put ice in here, and that replicates the old-timey way of running your stovetop pressure cooker under cold water to help it release faster. So I thought that was kind of a cool idea, but then I was really ticked off that I had to spend $10 more because this being a newer model means that it's not that cheap. So you might also want to notice that this is very different. So what happens is under here is the release valve, and this, the way the holes are spaced out, is really nice, and you actually have a button to press it, and I don't know if you can see, it tilts it ever so slightly. I think you can see just kind of, and it tilts it kind of that way, away from your hand. So when you're, just like you would go pss, pss, you could go pss, 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 the same way. If you're really not comfortable with having your hands so close, this is a good one because it really doesn't come near at all. I also found that I tried it like this with a soup, which is something I normally wouldn't do. So normally, if something is really liquidy, it's going to have more steam droplets and more water. So that's why we go, right? Get a little bit, because if not, it'll shoot up, and it's not going to shoot up really high, but it'll shoot up, get on here, it'll dirty things up because it's soup. It's not just water, right? And it could get on your hand if you've got your hand really close. And I'm going to see if I can do it this way for here. So we've got the start button, which I don't like. And we have some things. One thing I want you to notice is the Sous Vide button, right? So that's something new. The bake doesn't really matter. There's saute, steam, rice grain, delay start, keep warm, things that we're used to. So if we went to pressure cook, notice, and actually I'm probably going to need to do the front camera for this. So if we pressure cook, and then notice we see all these options down here. And those are preset options. So you just have to navigate. So it's a little bit of the in-between. But see, I can take that preset and I can still change it. But I must press the start button if I want this to start. Right? And I'm going to cancel that because I don't want it to start now. Now, the main difference is the sous vide button. So if you've been itching to try sous vide, if you really would like for the pressure to come down quicker, that's a good reason to get this model. I did find that when I was cooking some grits, it went to a burn message faster than it should have. So one thing you can do, so if you already have one of these Evo or Ultra models, you could just cook with extra water to begin with. So if we're cooking beans in general and the beans aren't done, we might add a little more water and cook it until it was done on pressure cook. If we're cooking split pea soup, that's not a possibility because if it's already so thick, but maybe you did split peas and lentils and the lentils aren't done, but the split pea is already really thick, you'd have to add a lot of water to change that. So at that point, I would go ahead and just do saute. And usually you can find a pot lid cover, if you don't have one already just for your Instant Pot, that'll fit on top. And I would just let it go like that and cook as if it was on the stove. Now, that's one thing that this has kind of an advantage too, is that this can go on your stove. So not only do we have the little handles on this one, which is another reason that it's kind of cool, is that Instant Pot tells us we can put this on the stove. So it's official. So those are some of the different reasons you might want to try this newer model. But if you're cooking a lot of grits, a lot of heavy things, just know you're going to have to increase the water level to make things come out and not burn. The final Instant Pot / electric pressure cooker model that we're going to look at is the Duo Crisp. And so it is one of the more modern units as well. It's still based on the Duo, but there's an air frying function, and we'll talk about that a little more at the very end. But what I want you to see is how it's similar and different, just like all the others. So if you notice here, can you see that it tilts and that locks? So if I wanted to just let it go, I can just press it. I can also just use this, or I can press it slightly, and that's where I get that thing. So if you press it like that, water droplets could come out stronger. So just notice, see, this is what was underneath that other clear plastic thing in the last one we looked at that helped make that a little bit easier. And this, sometimes the pressure indicators aren't red, they're silver, and they might raise up above, or they might just raise even with that black part. While we're here, here's some mystery things that we'll look at in a minute. So there's this and this, which aren't usually on Instant Pots at all. And spoiler alert, has to do with the air fryer. So we're going to look a little bit at this, and it's very similar to the other ones that we see, except for if you notice this whole circle of buttons and there's a little fan. Those are all air fryer functions. So you can air fry, roast, bake, broil, and dehydrate, which sounds like, oh my God, sign me up. But we'll see what some of the pros and cons are about having a combo versus having a separate air fryer from your Instant Pot. So you can see here that it's got a whole row of just air frying buttons. We've got air fry, roast, bake, broil, and dehydrate. So those are all things you do with the air fryer lid that we're going to look at in a minute. You don't use this normal pressure cooker lid for the air fryer functions, only for the others. Notice that there is no yogurt function, but there is a sous vide function. So that makes things kind of work out in the end, honestly. So sous vide allows you to set a consistent temperature to go on. So you could probably do some cool things with that. It still has the basic duo functionality to it. So as we look at these buttons again, you can take the time or the pressure cooking up, you can delay the start, you can do all of those things. And this one, and we'll look at it above too, this one has the dreaded start button. This is actually what we're going to put in to do our air frying. So I want you to notice there's a few things. There's this that helps it sit up, and then there's this, which you don't have to use, but it can either make it into 2 levels of stuff like for dehydrating, or it can just bring your food closer to the surface. So that's when you're going to broil. So if you see it from the top, see how this is so much closer than that. That's the only reason you're using this, to raise it. So this is the air fryer lid. And it also comes with this. This is because this is incredibly hot on the bottom. If you do not put this down, you will sear your counter. Basically under here is the coil, like in old electric ranges, right? And then here, and then with an air fryer, there is a fan back in here. So this is what we're going to be putting on top. And that's what's going to fit into those mystery things over here. So if you look at the bottom here, see how they match? And so instead of twisting it, you actually push it down. Okay? And that's how that looks. So if I wanted to, and you can, let's go ahead and just put it on air fry. So we could change the temperature and the time. So we could change the time. We could change the temperature. And it goes up to, I think, 400. Yeah, 400. Okay. And then again, we're going to press start. And what you can hear, because my mic is right at the back at the intake. I'll turn that around. So right here is where the hot air is going to come out of. So you're going to feel some, right now it feels pretty cool, but as it heats up, you're going to feel it be warmer and warmer. You want to make sure this area is clear and certainly isn't touching any cabinet wall or your wall or something flammable, because that's happened with many people with air fryers. Okay, and there's lots of little warnings all around there. Let me go ahead and press stop, cancel. So, and then when we take this off, we're going to pull it up, and that's why we have this here, because it's hot. So we can sit it right there and not worry about burning anything. And you can already feel that that's a little bit warm. So what I'd really like you to know, as far as all the things, right? Now your brain is like, all the things, all the things. If you're looking for a budget-friendly Instant Pot that does pretty much most of the things, Instant Pot Duo or the Milfi Original or 2.0 are the two I recommend at the budget-friendly prices. Using this as an air fryer, doing the Duo Crisp is kind of fun. There's also a lid called the Milfi Crisp lid that you can put on top of any 6-quart Milfi or Instant Pot that does kind of the same thing. It just kind of does that, but it's such a small little area. So you could put a couple of pieces of tofu in there. You could do enough fries for one person who is eating moderately, right? If you have a family of 4 or more, you're not going to be able to air fry a lot in here. So if you're like, I really want an air fryer and an Instant Pot, so I should get this one, the answer may be no, you shouldn't. So if it's just you, if it's 1 or 2 people, I think you can do an air fryer like this. If you just want to dehydrate a couple of things, but honestly, you're spending a lot of money to get this extra functionality. And there's an Instant Pot air fryer that's just Instant Pot air fryer straight on that you can kind of see in my back corner, that little black thing. It's huge and it's inexpensive. And honestly, if you want an air fryer where you could cook enough tofu or veggie burgers or corn for 4 to 6 people, that's the one I would recommend way, way over doing this kind of combo deal. However, if it's just a novelty, you want something fun and you have a small household, there's no reason you can't get it. So I hope that this has been really informative to you and that it's really kind of helped you make some of your decisions. So, and also if you have one of these models that I don't highly recommend, that doesn't mean it's not working for you. That just means it's not my favorite model. So I don't want you to feel like you have to go get the Duo if you already have an Instant Pot that you're happy with now. Most of this information is for you making your next choice, right? Because typically the newer models cost more. Now it's still around the holiday season, and sometimes in January you'll get sales as well as whenever Amazon Prime Day is. So you can always pick up a sale on a model that I talked about today, probably way cheaper in the future. But just keep in mind, the most important thing is, how are you using your Instant Pot? Are you probably using it like most people? 80% of the time you are using the pressure cooker function, right? Which means you don't need fancy buttons. Maybe you've been wanting to do sous vide. Maybe you have a sous vide that's not working anymore. Maybe that would lead you to get an Instant Pot with a sous vide function. I really like the yogurt function because I like making soy yogurt. It's so much cheaper to make at home. And I also ferment my dosa batter in there. So there's other things you can do. Now, depending on the Instant Pot you have, you may have more functionality as far as temperature control. Sous vide is a great choice for that. I would like to give you permission to get the cheaper one, the one that fits your budget more, instead of going ahead and going, let me get the sous vide. Because honestly, I've still not used the sous vide on mine. I probably will eventually, but it's not really a factor. If you're someone who really uses sous vide a lot, maybe you have an old sous vide machine you'd like to get rid of, then that could be a great choice for you. But you can get an Instant Pot Duo that will probably make 95% to 99% of all the recipes out there. And you'll probably get it for $40 cheaper, depending on the sale and the time of the year. So it's more important to me for you to know that you can get an Instant Pot and kind of cut down on your cooking time. Go ahead and prep some things, like cook beans ahead of time and freeze them, make extra stews and freeze them for later, and just kind of use that as part of your meal prep. And I think you're really going to enjoy the hands-off time that you get with your Instant Pot, because you don't have to just sit there like it's a stove and stir it and pay attention. It has a lot of hands-off time. So hopefully this has helped you make your decision, and I would love to hear what Instant Pot you chose to buy. I would love to hear what decision you made and which Instant Pot you chose to get. So be sure to come over to my private Facebook group, Vegan Recipes Cooking with Kathy Hester, and let me know, because I would love to know why you made your decision or what things were important to you, because it'll help me give people advice later on. Plus, it's a super warm, wonderful community of helpful vegans and plant-based people. So they'll be glad to help you with some of the recipes you have. Don't forget to sign up for the Instant Pot email challenge either, because what you'll get is just for a few days. Every day you will get an email that gives you some tips and tricks about the Instant Pot, a link to a video with me talking about that feature, and some extra recipes that you can use. It makes learning your Instant Pot for the first time super easy, and if it's not the first time, I bet you'll learn something new and make some fun recipes. So I can't wait to see you over there.